to the Prophecy Club. As you can imagine, every once in a while I get information on Bible prophecy emailed to me at AskStan@prophecyclub.com. And no one filters that. I actually get that email, AskStan@prophecyclub.com, if you have a question. Well, I got this in an email, and I must comment on it. It's called Watching for a Hook, Ezekiel 38 on the Horizon. Now, this is an article someone that obviously loves Bible prophecy has written, but I think they lack some information. So I'm going to give you some more information. I think you'll find it to be an interesting discussion. This article goes on to say, the list of experts who teach that Russia, Iran, and others will attack Israel in a future war called the Battle of Gog-Magog is impressive, Ezekiel 38 and 39. So, for the sake of brevity, I will simply state that God will put a hook in the jaws of Russia's leader, Ezekiel 38:4, and drag him and his allies into Israel in the latter days. First, Israel attacking Iran's nuclear facilities is not the Battle of Gog and Magog. But if Israel attacks Iran's nuclear facilities, Russia and Iran have said that they will counterattack, and that could be the Battle of Gog and Magog. And that is where I begin to disagree with this brother. He says that if Russia and Iran counterattack and attack Israel, that could be the Battle of Gog and Magog. Now, I'm going to show you why that cannot be. First of all, let's go to Daniel chapter 2. And we have to establish here, is Daniel chapter 2 talking about the statue? Is this statue talking about future world governments? So let's look. Daniel chapter 2, verse 38 says that God gave to Nebuchadnezzar the beasts of the fields, the fowls of the heaven, and he made him ruler over them all. Okay, so he is a world government. Then you skip down 10 verses, and it tells him again, this third kingdom, which will bear rule over all the earth. So each one of these kingdoms in this particular statue, and there's 4 kingdoms, is going to be a world government. Now let's look at the last one, the fourth one, verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, it shall break in pieces and bruise. Meaning, the fourth kingdom will be a world government, will bear rule over all of the earth. Now, verse 44. Here's what it tells you. You want to know when Jesus returns? This is when you can look for it. In the days of these kings, in other words, when there is the fourth kingdom, when you see the kingdom that is part iron, part clay, that has 10 toes, the world government that has divided the globe into 10 global regions. I think that's very interesting because the Club of Rome has already put out a map showing where those 10 global, even numbering each one of them. Okay, so we do know that we're very near to a time when the globe will be divided into 10 global regions that represents the 10 toes. Now, let's go on. In the days of these kings, in other words, the fourth kingdom, when you see a global government divided the globe into 10 global regions, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So, when does Jesus return according to Daniel chapter 2? The answer is when you see a world government, when they have divided the globe into 10 global regions. Now let's go to Daniel chapter 7. I already talked about in this chapter how there are 4 beasts. The first one is the lion, which is England. Coming out of the back of the lion is the eagle's wings. That's America. The second beast is the bear, the Russian bear. The third beast is the leopard, and it has 4 wings of a fowl and 4 heads. And I've talked about that, guys. It's not hard to figure out who the leopard is. All you do is Google, where do the leopards live? Print the map. Then you Google, where do Muslims live? Print the map. Overlay them, and you'll see that the lines almost perfectly match. In other words, the sign of Islam is the leopard. Then you look up the fighting habits of Muslims, the living and the fighting habits of leopards, and you find out that they're almost exactly the same. So the leopard represents Islam. Of course, that's not real hard to see. After America, the next big superpower rising is the Muslims. Okay, so that's sort of easy to see. Now, with that understanding, let's look at Daniel 7, because this is going to tell us when Jesus returns. After this beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had on the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. That means that there's going to be 4 regions or 4 groups of people. And the beast also had 4 heads, meaning each one of those 4 regions will have a ruler. Now, here's the key. And dominion was given to it. Well, why is that word important? See, here's why you got to stick with King James. Because dominion, that word dominion, that means everything. You got to understand the whole Bible. Let's back up to Genesis 27, verse 39. Here's the situation. You remember Jacob and Esau. Isaac says to Esau, go out and get me some of my favorite venison. Rachel overhears it, and she instead cooks up the venison real quick, and they pull a little switcheroo in there, and they get Jacob in. And Isaac lays hands on Jacob and gives him the firstborn blessing, which is always double what all of the other children will get in their blessing. Then, of course, Esau walks in, and Esau says, well, where's my blessing? Isaac says, sorry, I heard he gave the firstborn blessing to somebody else. I guess it was your brother. And he says, well, Father, don't you have anything for me? Now listen to what he says. He says, all right, your dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. That word in the Hebrew for fatness means crude oil. And of course, the Arabs have a lot of crude oil. Then it goes on to say, and by thy sword shalt thou live. And of course, it's really easy to see that the Muslims, of course, the Arabs, they live by the sword. They kill each other, and if they're not killing each other, they're killing you. That's what they do. That's all they do, is fight. Then let's go on. And shalt serve thy brother. And if you look through history, through the eons, you've seen that the Arabs or the Esau or the Ishmaelites have served Israel or Jacob. But when thou shalt have the dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. In other words, when this caliphate comes together, when these 4 heads, these 4 wings of the leopard, when you see the caliphate, when you see the leopard form, when you see a group of nations come together under the name of Islam to fight against Israel, that, brothers and sisters, will be the 3rd beast. Now, you can't have Jesus return in the time of the 3rd beast. He's got to return in the 4th beast. Listen, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. It had great iron teeth. Okay, that fits with the feet, part of iron, part of clay. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. In other words, the 3rd beast in World War III is going to put down all of the other former beasts and will set up a world government. World War III is coming, and it will bring in the world government. There is no question what I'm saying, guys. No question at all. Okay. Now, it continues. It says, then there came up among them another little horn. In other words, when there's a world government, there'll come up another little horn. Well, what about this guy? He says, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. In other words, this horn coming up, he's telling you, this is a man. This is your Antichrist. This is the guy that heads up the world government. Now, when we have the world government, when you see the Antichrist, then verse 9 says, and I beheld till the thrones were cast down. In other words, this world government is destroyed, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Then you skip down 2 verses, and it says, and the judgment was set. What does that mean? You go into a courtroom, and when that judge bangs that wooden mallet down and says, case closed, or next case, that is the judgment is set. We're done talking about it. This case is closed. So when the Bible says the judgment is set, it means that no one else falls away, no one else gets saved. Those that are filthy still. Those that are righteous still. This is when the angel puts one foot on the land, one foot on the water, raises his hands, and he says, "It is finished." The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ. Okay, he says, "Then I beheld until the beast was slain, his body destroyed and given to the burning flame." So to summarize, what chapter 2 of Daniel is saying is the 10 toes says Jesus returns in the time of a world government when they have divided the globe into 10 global regions. Daniel chapter 7 says in the time of the fourth beast will destroy all of the other 3 previous beasts, meaning England, America, and Russia, and will set up a 4th kingdom. And in the days of that 4th kingdom, the Antichrist will rule, and in those days, then Jesus will come and set up an everlasting kingdom. Now, can this be Armageddon? Well, Armageddon, guys, is the day of the Lord. Armageddon is the last and final battle. All battles on earth are flesh to flesh, except where God steps in, and at Armageddon, he steps in. And it's not a fair fight, okay? It's not a fair fight at all, because when Jesus returns, he will return and blow his glory down with the breath of his nostrils. He will brandish his sword, and his light, his fire, will go to the center of the earth. It set the foundations of the mountains on fire, and every person on earth will have to go through that fire, alive or dead. That's the reason Revelation 3:10 says, "I counsel of thee to buy me gold tried in the fire." What fire is he talking about? He's talking about when he blows the glory down, and from that moment on, there is no more sin ever in those people that get the glorified bodies. When that glory hits the center, they fall to the ground in the pile of ashes and bones. Malachi 4:3 says, "The sinners will be ashes under the soles of our feet." Let me go on and read the second point from our brother. He says, "Secondly, I agree that those who say that Psalm 83 is a prayer about a war between Israel and her neighbors." We'll be right back after this message. Prophet Leslie will be speaking each Sunday morning through the end of December, making a 10 DVD set called Error in the Church. This will help you to recognize a biblically based church and avoid those with errors in doctrine, committing abomination, heresy, apostasy, and blasphemy. Many churches are like a poison M&M. They look good, taste good, but they'll kill you spiritually. Like Chronicles 20:20 says, "Believe in the Lord your God, so shall you be established. Believe his prophets, and so shall you prosper." And the topics are mysticism, New Age of the Christian Church, the Kundalini Spirit Warning by Andrew Strom of Australia, New Reformation Church or Kingdom Now Theology Church, Chrislam, Seeker-Friendly, Seeker-Sensitive Church, the Emergent Church, Postmodernism, the G12 Vision Church, Tazi Worship Church, Tangible Kingdom Movement Church, Viserian Siberian Jesus Church, Hyper Grace Movement, Yoga in the Church, 12 topics, 10 DVDs valued at $300, and you can place your order for them now for just a gift of $180. She'll be speaking 9:30 to 10:30 each Sunday through the end of December at the Spirit of Prophecy Church, 2540 K Avenue in Plano. That's on the corner of Park and K in Plano. No charge, of course. See you there. And now, back to the program. I agree that those who say that Psalm 83 is a prayer about a war between Israel and her neighbors that will take place before the battle of Gog and Magog. That's Armageddon. This war hasn't happened, but events seem to indicate that it could happen soon. Again, we just discussed that. The battle of Gog and Magog, and I'm going to show you, cannot happen soon. That is the battle of Armageddon, and I'm going to show you that too. Anyway, let's go on. This war hasn't happened yet, but events seem to indicate that it happens soon. An intifada has been raging in Jerusalem for more than 2 months. There is currently a temporary ceasefire between Israel and the PA, but Hamas is threatening to break it, and no one expects it to hold. Okay, he says that Psalm 83 is talking about a war that is associated with the Battle of Gog-Magog, which is Armageddon. Now, a lot of people want to say that that is just about to happen. I'm going to show you scripturally why that's not right. Okay, so let's go to Psalm 83. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. I'm just going to get to the main points. And it says, "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult," skipping some. "They have taken crafty counsel against thy people," in other words, the Israelis. "They have said, Come, let us cut them from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." That's what the Arab nations want to say about Israel right now. "They have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against you," or Israel. This is saying the world, the nations. This is Armageddon. This is not just the Arab nations, but this is all the nations of the world. But these particular scriptures name off the nations that are going to be part of it. Edom, that's just south and east of Israel. The Ishmaelites, that's the father of the Arabs. Moab, also east of Israel. The Hagarenes, that's Jordan today. Gebal, that's Lebanon, that's north of Israel. Ammon, that's today Jordan, which is east of Israel. Amalek, which is Egypt. The Philistines, which is the Gaza Strip, all the Palestinians where they live, and Hamas and all that sort of stuff. Inhabitants of Tyre, that's up in Syria area. Ashur, which is Iraq, also joined them. Here's why this is associated with Armageddon. Verse 13, "O my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind." See, that's Armageddon. That's when Jesus blows his glory down. "As the fire burneth a wood, as the flame setteth the mountains on fire, so persecutest them with thy tempest." When you hear the word tempest, that means okay, I mean, Jesus is blowing his glory, blowing his fire, his light down on the earth, turning the earth into the light of the world, okay, because Jesus is the light of the world. That's the reason when the sun goes out, it never relights. No one will ever see the light of sun ever again. When the sun goes out, it's done, because Jesus returns and makes everything glow. There will be no darkness any place on the planet. Everything will glow in his glory. Now, the point is, Psalm 83, and I know there's this guy out there who's written this book saying Psalm 83 is just about to happen. Guys, it's not, okay? Because Psalm 83 is associated with the day of the Lord, or the Battle of Armageddon, or the day that Jesus returns, and that can't happen until you have a global government with 10 toes, until you have the fourth beast, and we don't even have the third beast yet. All right, now let's go on to the next thing he says. Third, I agree with those, now this is the other guy saying, I agree with those who say Isaiah 17 prophesies a war between Israel and Syria that will take place before the battle of Gog and Magog. This hasn't happened, but it is something else that could happen soon. The U.S. and several Arab allies have already attacked oil fields, refineries, Islamic State troops, other terrorists and weapons in Syria, even though Russia, Iran, and Syria warned us not to do it. In the past, Syria, Russia, and Iran have threatened to attack Israel. If Syria is attacked, Israel has her troops on high alert, and the IDF has just shot down a Syrian jet that supposedly strayed over Israeli territory. So, is Isaiah 17 associated with something that could happen in Syria or Israel right now? And the answer is no. Isaiah 17 is associated, once again, with Armageddon or the day of the Lord. They're getting things out of position here. So let's look at it. Here's some of Isaiah 17, specifically the part that's talking about how it is associated with the Battle of Armageddon. The burden of Damascus. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. Now, that's a real big, famous prophecy in the world of Bible prophecy, and a lot of people think, oh, that can happen at any time. I mean, Damascus, that could just be wiped out. No, it can't either. That's verse 1. Let's jump down to verse 12. It says, Woe to the multitude of the people, which make a noise like the noise of the seas. That's Armageddon. That's many people coming into the valley of Jehoshaphat, the valley of judgment, and to the rushing of the nations that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. The nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but God shall rebuke them. And they shall flee afar off, and shall be chased, here it is, chased as the chaff of the mountains before the wind. You see, when Jesus blows his glory down on the earth, all those sinners The Bible describes them as chaff. Now, what's chaff? All right. When you gather wheat, what you do is, of course, you wait till it's all dry. Gather it up. You put it into a bundle, and then you use a sharp sickle, and you cut a handful of it off. Then you put it in a big pile. Then you take what is called a flail, which is basically kind of like nunchucks, okay? It's stick and a stick attached between it with like a chain or a piece of leather. And then they beat this wheat. I mean, they beat it to a pulp. And so what you have there is stalks and leaves, and then you have wheat, but around each one of those wheat is this really, really light stuff called chaff. It's like a fly wing, very, very light. So once they get that all done, then they throw it up into the air, and all of the wood, hay, and stubble, or the stalks, the leaves, and the chaff are lighter, and they all blow away. Whereas the wheat, it falls straight back down. So after you do this over and over and over and over, then you have a pile of chaff and stuff that you don't want, which you burn. And then you also have a pile of wheat, which you gather into the barn to eat later. So when he says chaff, that means he's removing all of the sinners, all of the tares. This is also further confirmation that there's not going to be a pre-trib, mid-trib, or pre-wrath rapture. Tain't nobody going no place until the day of the Lord, until the day of Armageddon, until the day Jesus returns at the seventh trump, just like he said he would. Now, okay, so he says, chaste as the chaff of the mountains before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the whirlwind. Whirlwind is another word that you see in the scriptures talking about the battle of Armageddon or the day of the Lord. And behold, at evening tide trouble. Before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us. Okay, now what's evening tide? That's in the evening. In other words, when the sun goes down. What it's basically saying is, in the evening, when the sun goes down, the devil and the Antichrist and all of his cohorts, all of his attacking super soldiers that are all coming down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, the valley of Jezreel, that is coming down to Jerusalem to attack them and to destroy them. In the evening, by the time the sun goes down, they're there. But by the morning, they're all gone. Okay? At evening tide trouble, and before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us. In other words, those people that come down to attack Israel at Armageddon are whew, and they're gone in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. Now, let's go on to his next point. Fourth, on September 17, 2014, Israel's Minister of Intelligence said Iran is 9 to 18 months away from developing a nuclear bomb, and Iran already has missiles that can deliver one. He pointed out that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel will not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. 9 to 18 months will come quickly. Therefore, it is obvious that the time is running out for Israel to act and for Russia, Iran, and others to respond. World War III starts when America is hit with a catastrophe. Okay, so he's trying to say that Armageddon is just about here, just about ready to start. Is that accurate? No. World War III, according to what God has spoken to the prophets and holy servants of God, starts when America, first of all, is hit with a catastrophe. And that catastrophe comes because we forced Israel to split their land. And then the Arabs see their opportunity because America is not strong. America is devastated, okay? And so they attack Israel. America sends troops, which is the right thing to do, but then the communists stir up trouble saying, hey, Israel didn't help us when we were down and we were hurting. How come we're sending troops to help Israel? And so they start a revolution. And then, just like the angel spoke to Dmitry Duduman and said, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution, started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 other countries will attack and defeat America in one day, in 1 hour. Such great riches will come to naught. Okay, now, Leslie keeps telling me that I need to be positive Okay, here's the positive. Right now, America doesn't think they need God. Most people are not looking for a church to go to. They're not looking for a God to worship. They've got everything they need. They've plenty of food, plenty of water, a dry place to sleep. They got cell phones. They're blessed, blessed, blessed upon blessed. So, as we get closer to these destructive things, God is going to continue to send his judgment. Like he says, like the travail upon a woman. And those birth pains, once they start, get harder and closer until finally the baby is born. Likewise, the difficulties in the world will get harder and closer until finally Jesus returns. And those birth pains have started. So don't look for a whole lot of good in this, except for in that the trouble starts. You're going to see a lot of Americans throw away their atheists, throw away their other gods, and they're going to start seeing Americans decide that they need to find Jesus, they need to make peace with their God, and they're going to start going back to church. So that's the positive in it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Prophet Leslie will be speaking each Sunday morning through the end of December, making a 10-DVD set called Error in the Church. This will help you to recognize a biblically based church and avoid those with errors in doctrine, committing abomination, heresy, apostasy, and blasphemy. Many churches are like a poison M&M. They look good, taste good, but they'll kill you spiritually. Like Chronicles 20:20 says, believe in the Lord your God, so shall you be established. Believe his prophets, and so shall you prosper. And the topics are mysticism, New Age of the Christian Church, the Kundalini Spirit Warning by Andrew Strom of Australia, New Reformation Church or Kingdom Now Theology Church, Chrislam, Seeker-Friendly, Seeker-Sensitive Church, the Emergent Church, Postmodernism, the G12 Vision Church, Tazi Worship Church, Tangible Kingdom Movement Church, Viserian Siberian Jesus Church, Hyper Grace Movement, Yoga in the Church, 12 topics, 10 DVDs valued at $300, and you can place your order for them now for just a gift of $180. She'll be speaking 9:30 to 10:30 each Sunday through the end of December at the Spirit of Prophecy Church, 2540 K Avenue in Plano. That's on the corner of Park and K in Plano. No charge, of course. See you there. Today, we're making 3 DVDs available for a gift of just $25. The first one by Augusto Perez, End of Times. Topics are the Great Shaking, the Coming Famine, the Glory Cloud, the Coming Attack on the United States, the Great Darkness, the Super Devaluation of the dollar, the double portion outpouring, and how God will protect his own. Then, the Coming Pole Shift by Lloyd Carpenter. The Bible says that earthquakes will increase and the earth will turn upside down. Lloyd has studied the coming pole shift for over 20 years, and he says it is coming. And the topics are the Earth's wobble, earthquakes, tsunamis, weather pattern changes, tornadoes, hurricanes, mudslides, floods, and droughts, volcanoes, plate tectonics, seafloor spreading, hot spots, melting ice in the ring of fire, subduction zones, the scientific rationale for a pole shift, the Pacific Ocean and plate tectonics. Have earthquakes dramatically increased in the last 10 years? How does the Earth's rotation affect earthquakes? And John Moore, in Signs in the Sun, Moon, and the Stars, gives you a fascinating presentation using biblical, archaeological, scientific, and privileged government information to show you what is beginning to cause these signs in the sun, moon, and the stars. John proves the signs have already begun and will grow in intensity. He was an intelligence analyst for the U.S. Army and now a homicide detective and radio host. He has been investigating Earth changes since 2000 and has some startling discoveries. John has proof there is a mystery planet heading toward our solar system, which is causing ice caps to melt, stopping the Gulf Stream, causing tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, extremely hot and cold weather. He says the governments of the world know about it and they're preparing underground survival facilities. Included in this presentation is a classified map showing safe locations. It's the catastrophes in Bible prophecy gift offer. End of Times, Augusto Perez. Coming pole shift, Lloyd Carpenter. Signs in the Sun, Moon, and Stars, John Moore. Valued at $90, all available for a gift of just $25. Call 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. That's Catastrophes in Bible Prophecy Gift Offer. End of Times, coming pole shift, signs in the sun, moon, and stars. All for a gift of $25.